Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Northern Maple. I hope you all enjoyed the long weekend. I'm pretty sure it was a holiday across Canada, but if it wasn't, I apologize. Despite having lived from coast to coast in numerous provinces, for the life of me, I can never remember the holidays or when we're going to have a long weekend. And to make it up for you, in case I hurt your feelings there, I'm going to share a little fun fact. Did you know that when your body makes vitamin D, it uses cholesterol? So, this summer, you should really be spending as much time as you can in the sunshine for many reasons, but one being it's going to lower your cholesterol, produce a ton of vitamin D, store it in your fat cells, and hopefully save it for the winter when seasonal depression hits us all. Fun fact? Maybe, maybe not. Regardless, let's dive into today what we're covering, B-63. If you missed Thursday's episode, we outlined how this bill clashes with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in several ways. First, freedom of expression in Section 2B. The bill's vague definition of hate speech can be manipulated to censor dissenting views, stifling free speech. Second, life, liberty, and security of the person in Section 7. Ambiguous hate crime definitions risk arbitrary enforcement, threatening personal liberty. Third, protection against unreasonable search and seizure, Section 8 of the Charter. Requirements for data preservation and access to electronic data infringe on privacy rights. And fourth, equality rights under Section 15. Overbroad hate speech laws could disproportionately target certain groups, undermining equal protection. These conflicts raised numerous questions, one specifically being, has our government violated our rights before? To find out, I dug into case law to see how the Supreme Court of Canada has ruled on similar issues. Here's what I found. Key cases like R versus Keegstra in 1990, Canada versus Taylor in 1990, and Saskatchewan versus Whatcott in 2013 shed light on Bill B-63's free speech implications. In Keegstra, a teacher was charged for spreading hateful messages about Jewish people. The court upheld hate speech laws, but stressed they must target only extreme hate that incites serious hostility. Taylor involved hateful phone messages, and the court allowed a Human Rights Act to stand, but only for the most severe hate speech. Whatcott dealt with flyers attacking specific groups, with the court ruling that laws can't punish speech just for being offensive. It must cause significant harm. These cases suggest B-63's broad, harmful content rules and mandated content removal could overreach, threatening free speech if not precisely defined. For Section 7 violations, R versus Zendel from 92 and R versus Oakes 86 are absolutely critical. In Zendel, a man was charged for spreading false Holocaust claims under a vague law. The court struck it down for lacking clarity, risking unfair punishment. Oakes involved a drug law that assumed guilt too easily, leading the courts to create the Oakes test, a 4-step framework to evaluate whether a law infringing charter rights is justified under Section 1 as reasonable limit in a free and democratic society. The 4 steps are as follows. First, pressing and substantial objective. Is the law's goals important? Second, rational connection. Does the law's method logically achieve its goals? Third, minimal impairment. Does it limit rights as little as possible? Fourth, proportionality of effects. Do the benefits outweigh the harm to rights? Bill C-63's aim to combat online harm passes the first 2 steps, but its vague rules and lack of safeguards fail minimal impairment and proportionality, especially for free speech, liberty, and privacy. The Oakes test, established in R versus Oakes, exists to prevent unnecessary charter violations. It's clear Bill C-63 would struggle to pass this test in court, and only time will tell if our judicial system upholds this standard or succumbs to corruption. One pattern emerges with bills like C-63. They appear well-intentioned on the surface, but hide troubling implications. For example, the bill strengthens laws against child pornography by requiring internet providers to retain user data for a year and share details like IP addresses in suspected cases. Longer data retention makes sense for complex multi-jurisdictional investigations, but the bill's vagueness undermines its good intentions. Why must a law infringe on innocent people's rights to catch criminals, especially when existing laws already struggle to keep offenders behind bars? To me, Bill C-63 doesn't add up. Does it make sense to you? Let me know. Our Prime Minister publicly said charter rights exist to stop people like us, referring to politicians, from infringing on Canadians' freedoms. Yet, Bill C-63 seems designed not just to curb hate speech, but to silence voices opposing the government. Last I checked, Canadians have the right to criticize their leaders. Or do we? I'll save that question for a future episode. I want to end this episode with a challenge for all of us. Step back from your political leanings for a moment and ask yourself, are the bills passed on our behalf making Canada stronger or weaker? Are we growing more resilient or more fragile? Is our nation becoming safer or more divided, more violent? Think about it and share your thoughts with me in the comments section. It's becoming quite apparent that there's this pattern that keeps emerging of, with the Liberal Party in particular. They claim to stand behind the Charter of Rights and are very proud that it's one of them who founded or initiated the Charter. Yet they write these bills that are continuously conflicting with the Charter. Now our Prime Minister specifically said we should not infringe on the rights and freedoms as stated in the Charter because the Charter exists to protect the citizens, us, from corrupt politicians. So what is it? Why are these bills still being written to protect us, but they're not? In fact, they're making us more susceptible to corrupt politicians, to power-hungry politicians. I don't know, there are a few Liberals on that follow me, so please share your comments of why you think this is happening, or do you agree with it, or do you see a flaw in the bills that are being written for us? And same with the Conservatives. This is no longer about Liberals versus Conservatives. It's really, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms versus power-hungry politicians, regardless of the party they're affiliated to. If the Conservatives came out with a bill like this, I 100% would be tearing it apart the same way. In fact, regardless of who's in power, I will constantly be asking the questions why, keep digging into the decisions that they're making to make sure they align with Canadian values, with what it means to be Canadian, where it just makes no sense anymore. But anyways, before I keep rambling on, I'm going to end this episode here. Please think about my questions and share your answers in the comment section. I think it's really important that we get a lot of views out and start asking more and more questions. And the more you comment, the more I formulate my episodes. So you guys give me a ton of feedback that I can then go and dig and continue looking into stuff that's going to help us all. So on that note, take care, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye, everyone.